Hey guys, Bugcat7 here. Okay, it is Friday, September 11th, 2020, and I want to thank you for visiting the Stonewall Research channel here on YouTube. I really do appreciate it. All right, guys, well, it's worthwhile mentioning 9/11 in the sense that whatever dark forces created the events of 9/11 and the things surrounding it and everything, I just have one thing to say. I hope they all rot in hell, whoever it was. But not to get too far into that, it's worthwhile mentioning the poor people who suffered and the people who perished and the people who survived and their families and everything. Just absolutely disgusting what happened to these people, whoever did it, and it should make us all take pause into, what forces there are, what dark forces there are in this world that influence the ebb and flow of, reality and the way we create it. In any case, let's forget about that and get into something far more interesting and fantastic. And that is the second part of my series here on looking into the accounts of the quote unquote giants or large hominids, as I like to call them, international. And next up is Mexico. So let's take a look at some of these fascinating accounts from Mexico, a nearest neighbor to the United States, where it seems in North America here, it seems to be a great number of accounts, much more so than throughout the entire world. Of course, it could be a whole different story from anywhere else in the world because they've been living with these things for so many, millennia. But in the Americas, it seemed it's sort of a different sort of examination because of the events that happened here didn't happen anywhere else in the world. Like, for example, something 11,000 or 12,000 years ago, some cataclysmic thing destroyed much of the western part of North America. So, and there's a lot of evidence to that. You can find out through the Thunderbolts channel and the Thunderbolts project channel and tell you more about it. But it seems that North America got hammered by something in the Grand Canyon being just absolutely identical to a Lichtenberg figure, which is a figure, the type of design that occurs when lightning strikes surfaces. And, it's clear as day it's identical to a Lichtenberg figure, yet, people want to believe this inland sea thing, which is all baloney and all theoretical and hypothetical, and there's no proof of that and all this kind of stuff. And they've been trying for years to try to prove all these things, including the Bering Strait. They're all finding out they're all wrong about all this stuff now. To be handed some kind of cockamamie story for all these years about the Bering Strait land crossing there. We had to imagine them crossing over this land when the icebergs receded. And meanwhile, now they changed their minds that all the researchers, the anthropologists and archaeologists decided to give up on that idea because they could never find any proof of it. Okay, so now here goes the train. It's a freight train, I can tell. See how long it is. Well, still going. There's two coming, two different ways, sounds like. Hmm. Sorry about this, folks. Just part of the video. Makes a lot of noise, too. These old rickety cars, all beaten up. Yay! Boy, that was a big interruption, but I'm sorry about that, folks. But that's what I'm down to here. So, in any case, the U.S. seems to have been, western part of North America seems to have been wiped out by something or other. So, And we're talking about the Bering Strait crossing. Well, now all the anthropologists and archaeologists believe they all came by boat, which means that anybody who had a boat in the past could have come here, lots and lots and lots. So all the stories that you might hear about Vikings and Celts and Phoenicians and Egyptians and Africans and Chinese and this one and that one and their mother and their uncle and all that kind of stuff like that, it's all probably true. They all came here. Unfortunately, there was millions of people living here. They weren't making any colonies or anything like that. But they sure might set up trading shop over here, just like we do today. Think about these things. Whenever they find, when the Romans conquered all Europe, it's all about trade and all this kind of other stuff, the goods and resources that they can, take from all of these regions and all these other factors, the Phoenicians, etc. When trade is established, they often garrisons are set up in these places with the cooperation of the government there. And, these trading zones are established to ensure the flow of goods. This is just a common occurrence. You learn all about it in school if you go to school and learn about these things. You just find it all out. It's like Commerce 101, international commerce and trading 101. Simple as that. It's like the basic class. Okay, all these trading zones we have today. This has gone on forever. This is what happens. Okay. The giants around the world could very well have been outposts of the Atlanteans, elsewhere in all these trading zones all over the world, along with other people of shorter stature, maybe. I don't know, but the past seems filled with all these people. So let's get to Mexico here, and that is next up in this series. And so let's look into it. And there's a bunch of short articles. Let's see if I can get through them fast for you. They're not that long, but they certainly are just as interesting and fascinating as any of the accounts that we've read so far. All right, Giants found in Mexico. Boston, Charles C. Clapp, who has recently returned from Mexico, where he has been in charge of Thomas W. Lawson's mining interests, has called the attention of Professor Agassiz to a remarkable discovery made by him. And I think this could be Louis Agassiz, the guy who invented the Ice Age theory. That's a theory, okay? This is not a fact. The Ice Age is not a fact. I hate to tell you. I know you learned that in school, but you sort of missed that word in there when the teacher might have repeated it. They talk about the Ice Age, but the Ice Age is a theory, okay? It's not provable. You see, they seem to think they have evidence, but any number of things could have caused this same exact thing, okay? To a remarkable discovery made by him, he found in Mexico a cave containing some 200 skeletons of men, each above 8 feet in height. The cave was evidently the burial place of a race of giants who antedated the Aztecs. Mr. Clapp arranged the bones of one of these skeletons and found the total length to be 8 feet 11 inches. The femur reached up to his thigh, and the molars were big enough to crack a coconut. The head measured 18 inches from front to back. Okay, there's a couple of things about this that interest me as being a researcher in this and reading so many copious reams of material on this stuff. Okay, so first of all, this 200 skeletons, the 200 skeletons, always this even number two. I mean, maybe it was rounded up. I don't know, but it always seems to be around 200 skeletons found. We've heard of the accounts before with 200, 200, 200. I'm getting sort of a regimental military sense from these things. Could these have been military units from whatever central civilization may have been there in the Americas at the time? I just keep on hearing this 200, and it seems to be all over the place. So was this like was a company, a regiment? Was this some sort of, professional military group of giants that we keep seeing over and over again, and every single one of these regiments is killed down to the last soldier and then buried or something like that? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. And then the mole is big enough to crack a coke, and it's just interesting that they say that. And you often hear these where the teeth are perfect, okay? They have no cavities. They all seem to be there, but they find this intense wear on either the front or the side or whatever it is. But I'm just wondering that if these giant humanoid type people were, and it seems to me from their diets and the appearance of their teeth, that they probably weren't just simply vegetarians. They needed a protein diet. They were probably eating a lot of stuff out of the sea, including shellfish. Of course, we repeatedly hear about on the coast of North America in the accounts, and just in general accounts of archaeology, all of these shell mounds. Okay, could these people, since they were so big, been cracking open the shells of clams and other sort of crustaceans and mollusks and things with their teeth, and this is what the wear was from? Well, again, no cavities, completely perfect and intact. So I'm just wondering if they were just so big that they were cracking these things with their teeth, or I'm trying to figure out what they were doing with their teeth. Some sort of activity, because they find this wear on the giant's teeth from time to time. Just throwing it all out there from what I've learned. Sisalici, Chihuahua, 12-foot skeletons, giant human skeletons 12 feet long. The miners say they found a group of these skeletons intact in a hidden cave. The feet measured from 18 to 20 inches. A male with a U.S. shoe size of 13 has approximately a 12-inch foot. The government anthropology department plans to send a commission to investigate the discovery. Okay. Is that what it says? Can we read in here? Okay. Mexico City, giant human skeletons measuring from 10 to 12 feet have been discovered by prospecting miners in a new gold and silver district in the mountains of the state of Chihuahua, according to members of the party who arrived here today. This is one of the service cars going by. I can identify them by all their sounds. That's probably the Unimat, by the sound of the horn and the sound of the cars on the rail. I've lived by the rail for so many years, guys. Okay, according to members of the party who arrived here today, the miners say they found a group of these skeletons intact in a hidden cave. The feet measured from 18 to 20 inches. The government anthropology department plans to send a commission to investigate the discovery. So here again, we hear about the government sending these commissions of academics to go look at these things, and it's never to be heard of again. Then when you ask people like the Smithsonian about this or whatever, or these various universities, whatever, they're like, duh, huh, what? We don't know nothing. Hey, it's lost. We don't know. It's gone. We can't find it. It got stolen. It burned up. All of these excuses. And, it's obviously so many of these accounts were handled by professional academics, sent to the Columbia exhibit, all this stuff. What happened to all this stuff? And they're just going to sit there and deny it like, looking up at the sky and whistling like, we didn't do nothing. Right. Okay. To investigate the discovery, as the skeletons are said to be in perfect condition, with the likelihood of others being found in the district, it is felt that the find may clear up the present doubtful origin of the Chihuahua Indians. The discovery was made near the village of Sisaguichi. The skeletons were in a sitting position, the shoulders and arms bending forward and resting on the upraised knees. In this position, they measured from the top of the skulls to the ground from 5 to 6 feet. The cave in which the find was made is believed to have been the burying grounds for the race, and probably was boxed in some manner, as all the skeletons rested on once were planks. Very interesting there. And again, we found, many of the accounts showing that these skeletons were found in these sitting positions, in these same exact positions that these skeletal remains were found. So there's some, religious significance to this, spiritual significance to this, and this would give probably, if you were looking at it from scientifically, that this may indicate a specific time period in the age of the giants and refer to at least a common sort of culture throughout the Americas here, now down into Mexico, and finding similar things. Okay, so this may be one civilization that we're talking about in the ancient past when these giant humanoids existed. Just throwing it out there, guys. You have to consider all these things. And again, with the 200 Indians from the one before, I just kept on hearing about 200, 200, 200 over and over again. And it's just all of these things have to come into mind, folks. We're trying to make sense out of things. We never heard a history on the giants or any of these people who lived in the past. We're just discovering that now. We have to make of it what we can. Cave skeleton, 8'11". Giant skeletons found. Cave in Mexico gives us the bones of an ancient race, special to the New York Times. Boston. So again, so this is just a repeat of the same article here. I guess it was covered also by the New York Times. Okay. Again, with these 200 skeletons, I guess that's why I included here. It was covered by various publications, but it's so interesting to me that this 200 number comes up over and over again. So it's sort of suggesting something to me. I don't know. What do you think? 2 7-foot mummies and an 8-foot skeleton. Blonde giant remains found. Discovery made by scientists in Mexico. Again, we find about these blonde mummies, and what's so interesting about this is, first of all, people are going to say to me, oh, it's the Vikings, it's, Caucasians, it's white. Who's to say what color and pigmentation these people's skin were? Evidently, the Native Americans have pigmentation in their skin can't be found anywhere else in the world. Maybe one of these giants had the pigmentation that we're talking about, and you say, well, that doesn't make sense with blonde hair. Well, we have accounts of in northern part of Midwest United States of these tribes having blonde hair. We found out from Von Galt, the nice lady who I interviewed, this author Von Galt from it was a Laotian lady who's plenty of people in her country that have blonde hair, and they don't know why that is. And again, the Berbers in North Africa. So these people with different skin pigmentations could very well find themselves with blonde hair. Some of these people with very dark skin pigmentation with blonde hair. How'd that happen? Okay, so when they say blonde hair giants, it doesn't mean anything. We can't see their skin. Maybe they were the same thing. Maybe they were an amalgamation of something else. We don't know. We don't know what the history was. Maybe they had a unique skin pigmentation. Okay? I don't know, but the Native Americans certainly did, right? So we have to consider all of these things and the possibilities there, but logically. Okay? There were blonde giants yesterday in this land of Manana. Paxton C. Hayes, an explorer, has dug up a prehistoric civilization in the northern Mexico area of Barranca de Cobra, which appears to prove ancient legends of huge blonde Mexican giants. The ancient buildings in the cave, Hayes said, were constructed of a cement-like masonry mixed with bamboo. The huts look much like mosques. How interesting and fascinating is this? Just when I read this, cement-like masonry mixed with bamboo. Okay, so thousands and thousands of years ago, people were mixing up masonry. Okay, and way predating the Inca and the Mayans and the Aztecs and everybody. These giants were mixing up this stuff. Okay, thousands and thousands of years ago. Okay, and making their dwellings look like mosques. Just consider all of that, folks. That's just all I got to say. And, use your imagination. Like as I say again, the past is more fantastic than any stories you heard about the Nephilim and Anunnaki, which just concentrates on UFOs and, what they're doing here or whatever. And the people came and did what and whatnot or whatever. Forget about all that stuff, okay? We're trying to, make sense of this stuff. Explorer Hayes guide Rafael Garcia led the way some 90 miles into the mountains from Alamo, Sonora. About his startling discovery, Hayes said, "Every basket we found contained a body wrapped like a silkworm. There were 34, of which 2 were women. 9 were mummified, and the remainder were skeletons. When the bones of the mummies were laid out properly, the various bodies measured from 7 feet 6 inches in most cases up to the largest skeleton, which a full 8 feet. Herpetology, the study of snakes, lead explorer Hayes to the Yaqui region in Barranca de Cober. Herpetology, the study of snakes, led explorer Hayes to the Yaqui region in Barranca de Cober. He had been engaged in snake research when he first heard the Indian tale about the lost city of blonde giants in Sonora. Having great faith in the Yaqui Indians and in their strange and little known tribal history, Hayes decided to run down the tale of the centuries buried giants. "We dug down to volcanic ash," Hayes said. "Below that were the burial baskets, made of mats woven from fiber and bound with twisted yucca rope." Was this really volcanic ash? Maybe it was the ash from something else happening, like an electrical thing. Hayes said he found his huge mummy at the 7,000-foot height. The question is, how did these huge Mongoloid people get into Mexico? The great mystery of Hayes' find, and perhaps the key that may one day solve this riddle of the Mongoloid past, were the sap, I guess this maybe something from colored burial robes found on the giants, were the I don't know what it says. There may be a great historic tale behind the powder blue designs of latch hooks and pyramids that embellish the robes. Hayes thinks that the tiny series of white dots that recur throughout the robes are symbols of the ancient Indian time cycle, and working on a theory that theory points out that if this be true, the white dots add up to 25,000 years. He took the burial robes to the chiefs of the Surrey Indians on the Tiburon Island of the Mexican West Coast. They were as puzzled as Hayes. This possible lost world in northern Mexico may prove to be one of the most provocative pages in the history of our North American continent if Hayes' theories are correct. How interesting and fascinating is that? Okay, wearing these robes are evidently made of some sort of textile with these pyramid designs on it and dots. Okay, very, very interesting. Powder blue with latch hooks and pyramids. How fantastic is that? Just amazing. 12 feet 7 inches San Juan in a mound near San Juan, Mexico. Well, you knew there were plenty of mounds in Mexico, didn't you? No? Okay, well, there's lots of them there. Okay, just like they're everywhere in the Americas that they're neglecting to tell you about. Because many of them have been destroyed, so best, forgotten, and, nobody knows that they were even there. There has just been unearthed the skeleton of a giant man who evidently belonged to a prehistoric race. The length of the skeleton is 12 feet 7 inches. 12 feet 7 inches. Maron, that's a big guy. Okay, here Chris Leslie mentions a number of other 12-footers from other accounts. Yucatan Giants, there before Columbus, evidences of settlements long ago in Yucatan. Relics of curious giants and dwarves. How the houses look, inscription scholars cannot make out. These people were older than Columbus. Interesting historical data, odd country. How fascinating is this? Okay, we're hearing about giants and dwarves, possibly giants and dwarves also living in this sort of dynamic relationship between giants and people of lesser stature. Were they're willing subjects and servants, or were they acquiesced to the giants? It's hard to say. We don't know that yet, but it may have been like that. Who knows? Maybe there was a rebellion against the Giants, and it's just one unified civilization, and there was a rebellion against the Giants. These are things to think about, and they certainly are interesting and fantastic. Shrouded in the mystery and darkness as the ancient history of America is, we are still able to form some dim idea of the strange and wonderful civilization which existed at that time, as it is attested by the grand ruins which cover the whole peninsula of Yucatan. Among the ruins are found immense underground reservoirs which supplied their cities with water, as the whole country is destitute of rivers or lakes. Such reservoirs are not to be equaled in any part of the world at the present day. Then there are miles and miles of underground roads, some of which the writer has explored for over 3 miles, and which are supposed to have connected between their various large and populous cities. One subterranean road, about 3 miles from the city of Valladolid, and which undoubtedly led from the ruins of Chichen Itza to the east coast, is broken through, and the author fell headlong through the tangled underbrush which covered the opening. After some difficulty, he managed to extricate himself from the hole and weeds by the assistance of his servant's something. On descending again, he found the road to measure 10 feet wide and 6 feet to the beginning of the peculiar Maya arch, it being 10 feet from the floor to the apex of the roof. In places, the ground had simply been formed into a sort of channel and then walled up on the sides with rough stones. The angular roof was then made and the whole covered over with dirt. At other places, it was simply dug out of and it was cut off there. And I don't think it continues up here, but we can read some more of it. All the old writers, as Bishop Landa Cogalito and de Borberg, state the age of these ruins are very old. Landa was the priest who gathered all the portable books, manuscripts, etc., and burned them in the public square because, as he said, they spoke of things ungodful and full of the devil. When Cordova discovered Yucatan in 1517, he saw some of the ruins, and although he was quite near to others, yet he heard nothing whatever about them, and the natives, even in that time, had forgotten by whom they were built. They simply said, "Our ancestors," or "Les Antiguos," the ancients. Highly civilized people. Of one thing, however, we are certain. These ancient Americans were highly civilized. They manufactured cloths from cotton and hemp. They slept in beds. The hammock is a very late importation. They had schools and convents. Policemen patrolled their cities. They communicated with Asia and Africa. This is easily proven by their use of certain stones, which to the present day are only found in Asia, namely the nephrite jade, a beautiful green stone only mined in Turkestan. Although their religion was idolatrous, yet they did not sacrifice human victims. This barbarous custom was introduced by the Aztecs, as the Aztecs only appeared in Mexico AD 1216. It stands to reason that the degenerated race, as found by Cortez, made use of the human sacrifice. It was in the 13th century the Aztecs commenced to adopt the fashion of the Maya and wore cotton tunics. The strangest fact about these people is that both the Mexicans and the Mayas had prophets who had prophesied the advent of the conquest. Mexico's prophecies are well known through Prescott's works. In Yucatan, in the 14th century AD, there lived a priest named Shilam Balam. He professed the subjugation of the nation by a white bearded people from the east. It is a matter of history that the natives asked the followers of Cordova if they came from the east, and they thus saw their prophecy fulfilled. Kalam Balam said that before the strangers should advance 1 league, they would show a large cross, which was to be the god of the country. In token of this, he caused to in token of this, he caused to be made some stone crosses and placed them with their idols. Such crosses have been found to the wonder of the whole world. Besides the prophecies of Chilam Balaam, there were at 5 different distinct times or epochs prophecies of a people and of a god who should overthrow the idols. Where did these prophets or priests get their ideas? How fascinating was that one? Just amazing. And what they said about these things just has to, many people have thought these things and come up with these ideas on their own, yet we're reading these things in these accounts. Okay, so these are things that logically people are led to believe that they communicated with Asia and Africa. Well, they communicated not only with Asia and Africa, they communicated with everybody. Okay, because it was all about trade, all the wonderful food items, especially to be got from the Americas. Tiburon Island, 10-footer. The body of a prehistoric man, 10 feet tall, is dug up on Tiburon Island in the Gulf of California, according to the Mexican government. Was he only of normal height in his day, or was he a circus freak? No one will ever know. For some mysterious reason, nature draws a veil over the past vanishing as the future unfolds, like two horizons to a traveler. Isn't that interesting that they say all this stuff? For some mysterious reason, well, I don't think it's a mysterious reason, I don't think it's nature either that draws a veil over the past. I think that's men that draw a veil over the past. This is 1922. This is in the 20th century. Giant found in Chihuahua. Giant survived the age of fable. An American engineer, driven to shelter by a storm in the mountains of western Chihuahua, found at hand a cavern and in its dimness made out great bales wrapped in leather. He opened one and in the flicker of a torch discovered the skeleton of a man 12 feet tall. 1925, another 20th century account. How interesting is that? Sayulpa race of giants. Discover remains of an unknown giant race. Tucson, Arizona. Discovery of remains of what was believed to be a hitherto unknown race of giants has been disclosed by J.E. Coker of Sayulpa, Sonora, a mining town 300 miles south of the Mexican border. Coker, a mining engineer, said that laborers clearing ranch land near the Yaqui River in the vicinity of Sayulpa dug into an old cemetery where bodies of men averaging 8 feet in height were found buried tier on tier. The heads of the ancient skeletons, Coker said, were especially large. Carved native stone bracelets were found on the bones. Beside the bodies, Coker said, the crudest kind of stone weapons and implements were buried. After the first skeleton was unearthed, owners of the ranch redoubled efforts to excavate the cemetery. Coker said that when he left Sayulpa, the work still was in progress. The first tier of bones was found only a few feet from the surface of the ground. This is 1930. So another 20th century one. How fascinating is that? Could there have been like 200 skeletons there? I wonder. And, what's their exact size? Tepic, Mexico, more than 10 feet. Human giants in American discovery. The discovery of the bones of a human race of giants towering more than 10 feet in height is reported by Captain Page, an American, and Captain De Valda, an Englishman, who returned from an unsuccessful search for legendary Spanish gold mines. The discovery was made of great burial mounds in the mountains southwest of here. The state of preservation indicated the race lived more than 500 years ago. The reported discovery finds some substantiation in tales handed down through generations of Indian tribes on the coast of Mexico. Okay, it's showing where it was found over there on the western coast, in a province in the western coast, more than 10 feet. That's a big guy. Ixtapalapa, 15-foot skeleton. 15 foot. Man, okay. Now, if I wanted to move around some couple ton blocks like the ones at the pyramids in Egypt that weigh 2.5 tons or whatever it is, I think I want a bunch of guys like this to help me out because it probably wouldn't be too much trouble for them. Like, one guy with a few of his buddies or whatever, just lift up that thing and put it where it's got to go. No sleds and harness and cranes and ropes and blah, 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 blah. None of that needed. Just pick it right up and put it wherever it's got to go. Okay, and they're for hire too. They're contractors. They do that for a living. So when King such and such with his mountains of gold said, "Hey, we want you big guys to come over here and build me something, and build it to my size. Don't build it to your size. Build it to my size. Okay, this is what I'm paying you for. Now get out of here. Build that thing and get out of here in 20 years or less." Flying prehistoric giant, skeleton 15 feet high, unearthed in Mexico. News was received here yesterday from New Mexico that at Ixtapalapa, a town 10 miles southeast of Mexico City, there had been discovered what was believed to be the skeleton of a prehistoric giant of extraordinary size. A peon, while excavating for the foundation of a house on the estate of Augustin Juarez, found the skeleton of a human being that is estimated to have been about 15 feet high and who must have lived ages ago, judging from the ossified state of the bones. Romulo Luna, judge of the district, has taken possession of the skeleton, which is complete, with the exception of the skull. Judge Luna says that as soon as the search for the skull is finished, the skeleton will be forwarded to the National Museum of Mexico, which has an almost priceless collection of Aztec antiquities. The National Museum, it is said, has made arrangements to investigate this quote-unquote find. The discovery of the skeleton has revived the old Aztec legend that in a prehistoric age, a race of giants lived in the valley of Anahuac, a name given to the Aboriginal Mexicans to that part of the Mexican plateau, nearly corresponding to the modern Valley of Mexico City. These giants, known as the Quinatsins, the story goes, were afterwards destroyed by the Olmecas, also of great stature, who in turn perished by earthquake, interpreted as an expression of the wrath of God. Okay, it's just fascinating story there, don't you think? And when was this from? 1909, another 20th century. Okay, so a lot of these in 20th century, not in particularly in Victorian times. 15-footer, boy, that's mighty big. Okay, and it's sent back to often some judge or somebody takes possession of these things, never to be seen ever again, for whatever reasons. Okay, guys, so that was the accounts in Mexico. There was quite a few of them, and I had to spend a little bit of time talking about it because it's so extremely fascinating. These a couple of accounts in here just were amazing, in my opinion. Um, just a mere just a whole bunch of stuff to think about. Relics of curious giants and dwarves. They didn't mention much about the dwarves, but what about these dwarves? They're living with the giants? What are they doing? Boy, does this sound like Tolkien if nothing else does. Okay? So anyway, guys, that was the accounts of the giants from Mexico. I hope you enjoyed those. I certainly did. They're just absolutely fascinating and interesting. And we're going to move on from here. We're going to cover the rest of this part of the world. Then we're going to move on elsewhere. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. And we're going to cover some other things in between all these things. Okay? All right, guys. Anyway, if you like the video, please hit the like button. If you are not a subscriber, please do subscribe. And we cover many, many interesting topics on this channel. All right? Anyway, Budcat7 signing out. Peace.